the girl them a bubble like when you throw sod up in a water. Sod up in a water.
Today's feature was inspired by the thought of doing dancehall artist Sean Paul, who, when you speak about the history of the genre at all, you have to mention his reign and importance to bringing dancehall music to the forefront of popular music on a worldwide stage, and the success like none other he's been able to have on Western music early in the 21st century. His song Get Busy in 2003 became the first dancehall single to top the US Billboard 100 charts. Whatever dancehall became specifically in the US, Canada, and the UK is heavily credited to what Sean Paul was able to do in the early 2000s. He was like the Jamaican Drake. Oh wait, Drake was like the Jamaican... Anyway, the music was hot and he had the perfect mix, literally, to broaden the reach of dancehall music, taking it from just being a Caribbean ting or niche American delicacy to influencing pop culture and making it more relatable to more people in appearance and sound. Back then, when you thought dancehall, you usually associated it with the gritty, dreadhead look of Beanie Man, Elephant Man, Vibes Cartel, Deadstock Vibes, not the modded one, Buju Banton, Capleton, and many more not named Shaggy and Sean Paul. He also couldn't have come at a better, more fitting time, as dancehall music was peaking around the early 2000s. Then here comes this mixed colored artist with braids, but also could be confused for Hispanic. He hit every market and gave dancehall its biggest look ever. I still remember when Gimme the Light came out and had everyone on the dance floor in the function doing whatever the new dances were in the music videos. I also remember an early crush I think all boys my age shared on the girl doing the Spider-Man dance with the ponytails. When Sean released Get Busy, it was over. He controlled the radio for the next few years as the most universal dancehall artist of all time. But after him, as far as on a mainstream stage, dancehall music has been phased out in a lot of ways, one of them being it may have become too pop and lost its original sound and even structure. Sure, you've had this artist and that artist come after Sean Paul, but I'd say in the last 15 years, dancehall music has been as dead as radio. Interesting, because dancehall was once prominently outside music and anti-radio to becoming all TV and radio. Now they both hang on the same thread of reaching their peak but never adjusting to the current times. What happened to dancehall music? Did it go too pop? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. This video is sponsored by Loops for Producers, the #1 site to get sounds for your production. Simply click the genre and product that catches your eye. On the product page, listen to the demos and choose the sound option you want to purchase. After purchase, you will receive the digital download to the email you provided. Unzip the file and drag and drop the sounds into your DAW. Let the creative juices flow. Loops for Producers, the #1 site for sounds. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Dancehall music is categorized as a rhythm-heavy subgenre of reggae music, originating in Jamaica and spreading quickly to other parts of the Caribbean, like the Bahamas, which is originally where I myself am from, Trinidad, Barbados, and more. The name dancehall itself originally referred to a physical location people would meet up and take in the new rhythms, as they called it, meaning new tracks, beats, or instrumentals that many different reggae artists and dancehall artists performed on in their own remix versions. It was the hottest thing back then to hear a rhythm go on forever, but switch artists by the DJ mixing them in and creating essentially an entirely new song. New rhythms, new energy, and of course, a new dance. That was it back then. Doing the new dance moves or your own versions of the old ones in the parties, whatever the case, it was all about breaking a sweat, dancing. By the 90s, dancehall music was creeping into popular music through artists like Beanie Man, Buju Banton, Bounty Killer, Capleton, Patra, Lady Saw, Mr. Vegas, and more, in what many call the golden era of pure dancehall music. Think scenes from Belly, but a lot more dangerous, possibly, although we never went that far. Stunt number 1, absorbed by pop music. When it comes to music of any genre, there's always going to be a dance attachment. Most music makes you move and on some level dance. Genres that focused on the dancing aspect like reggae and eventually dancehall was always going to align at some point with becoming popular. Because technology back then wasn't what it eventually became, dancehall music was mostly enjoyed outside because everyone couldn't afford a radio and because in most low-income countries, people preferred hanging out outside instead of indoors simply because there was more space and you didn't need to secure a building rental just to have a party. So one DJ would have a huge sound system and play rhythms for hours, and everyone in the dance hall could enjoy in the fresh air and under the night stars. As technology got better, music started to become more and more accessible, and more became familiar with a craze quickly making its way to places like America through families literally moving to these places in seek of a better life. So places like Florida, New York, and the South became heavily influenced by family members playing dancehall on the radio and TV. Then guys like Sean Paul, Beanie Man, and even Elephant Man hit around that time mainstream and made it popular. Soon dancehall music was everywhere. It was exciting and simple enough that even if you didn't understand all the words, you understood to just move to the rhythm and don't think about it. But then Sean Paul and those guys got older and left a void in dancehall that popular artists began to fill with their own versions of it, like Drake, Rihanna, even Justin Bieber in the mid-2010s and on. When that happened, it was like, well, I guess anyone can do it. And all of a sudden, it became structured by choruses and verses and original beats and not rhythms anymore and lost its grit through commercialization. Stunt number 2, couldn't fit the climate / PR nightmare. Another huge reason dancehall hit a growth stunt was because in its foundation, it wasn't built to withstand the times we evolved into. When things like the gay rights movement and feminism took root throughout the world, Jamaican music and all subgenres, but especially dub, reggae, and dancehall, have always been heavy on the violence, objectification of women, and homophobia, so created a PR nightmare for dancehall, specifically the older songs we grew to love. Those songs were essentially cancelled in the new society, and the artists that made them have been very apologetic and disassociative of their past work in order to gain new work and new fans in the newer climate. Times changed and dancehall for the most part hasn't changed with it. A huge reason it didn't even get much of a shot to is because a lot of the older dancehall artists have either gotten too old to have influence or they've had problems with performing their classic material in today's atmosphere. Some have even had immigration problems in this era, with many countries banning different reggae and dancehall artists from performing there, feeling the music is too violent, non-climate fitting, and causing high crime rate whenever the country is heavily involved in that music. The homophobia, the violence, countries weren't standing for it any longer, and those artists were disappearing left and right from the mainstream. On top of that, influential artists got locked up, like Vybz Kartel and Buju Banton, who was deported back to Jamaica after his 2018 release from a Georgia prison for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute 5 or more kilos of cocaine. Vybz Kartel is still down and may never come home. Stunt number 3, no new blood. With that said, dancehall suffers from not having much new true blood to it anymore, as the sound has become much more commercial and similar to everything else that's going on today, even in appearance. You watch a new dancehall artist's music video today on mute and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference from him and a rap artist. In sound, the structure has changed, and again, you couldn't distinguish it from hip-hop, trap, drill, or whatever else is in today, except for the artist's own accent. Even then, there's not the same authenticity. Nowadays, like Beanie Man said, music is so easy to make and become popular that anyone can do it from anywhere and become a star, so it lost its soul per se and isn't created to stand the test of time. Since Sean Paul got older and less popular, and artists like Beanie Man, Movado, and more have had their visas taken away and have not been allowed to perform in the US, and younger artists not wanting to experience the same fate, dancehall, especially in this climate, is pretty much dead, as far as we knew it anyway. Take an artist like Popcaan. His music sounds like a drill song with pretty much the same subject matters and imagery. Sounds and looks like everything else played and viewed today, showing that dancehall isn't what it used to be. All in all, maybe one day dancehall in its essence will make a return, but for now, for these reasons, its growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.